Hello little flower family, welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to show you the different type of lettering that I like to do in my planner and when I do note taking. I definitely don't have the best handwriting or the best lettering skills, but this is my little collection of the letters that I know how to do, and I know you guys have been requesting this, so I hope you enjoyed the video. So I'm going to go through all the lettering styles that I know in this notebook, and I'm just using a regular Erin Condren pen. I will leave this linked below if you want to use the same pen as me. So I did a little sticky note of the different styles that I know how to do, and I'm going to go in depth and explain each one. I think the easiest way to show you is by writing out the full alphabet of each style. And fun fact, when I was in high school, I had a friend with perfect handwriting. I mean, her penmanship was just goals, and I wanted my handwriting to be just like hers because my handwriting was just hideous. And so I asked her to write me the full alphabet in her handwriting, and then when I went home, I basically did lettering drills just to copy her handwriting over and over again until I mastered it. And that, my friends, is how I changed my handwriting. So this first style is my basic normal handwriting in all lowercase. I switch between writing in all lowercase and all uppercase, so it really just depends. But I do write pretty small, as you can tell, and with this normal handwriting style, I like to keep my letters floating. And what I mean by that is that I don't touch the lines on the page while I'm writing. So the letters are literally just floating in the middle space of the lined pages, just like that. Next, we have my basic normal handwriting, but this time in all uppercase. So these are obviously bigger letters, but I still keep them floating as much as possible. So I try not to touch the lines of the lined pages. And if I had to describe my handwriting, I would say it's sharp but dainty. This next one is my most used lettering style whenever I want to add a header to my notes or it's something important that needs to stand out in my planner. We'll call this one the basic blocks. It's literally my normal handwriting in uppercase with an added border to each letter. And with these basic blocks, I do add some different variations, but we'll get into that later when we go more in depth. Right now, we're just going to focus on doing the alphabet. So before writing the letter, you want to already know where you're going to add the block to this style. That's why looking at the alphabet that I wrote out will help, because you can look back at it for reference. But I typically start out by drawing a tall rectangle and finishing the letter from there. But then there are a few exceptions with letters like C, G, J, S, just to name a few. Those are the ones I have to draw the letter first and then add my block afterwards. And I typically have to do that with the curvy rounded letters of the alphabet, but all the rest are pretty simple and easy to do once you create your tall rectangle. Does that make sense so far? This next one, I don't use that much, but I have it here in my little collection if I ever need it. This is the skinny letters. So it's very similar to my basic normal uppercase style, but we're keeping it very tall and narrow. Just think of it as the regular uppercase letters, but imagine you pinch the sides to make it really skinny and dainty. I actually think this one is super cute. I don't know why I don't use it very often. Maybe I should. Next, we're moving into the bubble letters, which is probably my worst one out of all of them. Bubble letters are meant to be animated, fun, and cute, but unfortunately mine always comes out looking like a sad attempt. I mean, I still play around with the style though, because I think the more that I practice it, the better I'll get, right? Fingers crossed at least. So with this style, I basically draw a very rounded out letter all with one motion, so meaning I don't lift my hand up off the page. That's probably why mine always turn out so sloppy, but it's the only way I know how to do it. I try to avoid any sharp lines, even with letters like T and M. I keep everything very rounded, and it gives it a more fun and goofy kind of look. And now with bubble letters, I do have one other variation of this style that I want to share with you guys, but again, we'll go more in depth in a little. But right now, let's just focus on our ABCs. Now we move on to the faux calligraphy lettering that I do. And to be honest, this one is weird to write out because when I'm actually writing out phrases or sentences, I use a mix of uppercase and lowercase letters. But for this demonstration, I'm going to try my best to do all uppercase letters followed by all lowercase letters. So the uppercase calligraphy is very similar to the basic blocks, but we're adding more of a curvy finish to each letter, and the part that is a block on the other style is now a smaller shadow instead of a bulky block. Later on in this video, I'm going to go a lot slower and walk you through how I do my faux calligraphy, so just keep watching to see that. Moving on now to the lowercase calligraphy. To me, I feel like the lowercase letters look way more cursive-y and pretty than the uppercase calligraphy. And it's basically the same thing though. You want to write your letter out in cursive and then add a slight shadow to make it look like real calligraphy. And there is a technique to figuring out where the shadow goes, but again, once we do our step-by-step tutorial, I'll go more in depth and share my tips. This last one is a different style of cursive that I love doing. We'll call this the spaced out cursive. It's not as easily legible, so I really only use this for decorative writing, but it's basically a very spaced out cursive writing. I make long flicks at the front and end of each letter, and I write out the actual letter in really fast cursive writing, so that's why sometimes it's not so easy to read, but you have to admit, it looks cute, right? So here's just the basic guidelines to the different lettering styles that I use in my planner and notes. If you want to screenshot this and practice copying these styles, feel free, but I'll also post a photo on my Insta stories, that way you can screenshot that as well. So now let's move into the different variations I have for the basic block letters and the bubble letters. So we're going to start with the basic blocks. I'm going to write this a little bit bigger so it's easier for you to see what I'm doing. So like I mentioned earlier, to create the basic block, I just stuttered, sorry. To create the basic block, you want to create a tall rectangle and then finish off the letter you want. So with the A, you can see I kind of made it like the rectangle at a slight angle so it would align perfectly with the angle of the A. And for the B, I drew it completely straight. And for the C, I drew the C shape first and then created the rounded block. With rounded letters, you want to draw the letter first and then create the block effect afterwards. And that's the normal and empty version, right? So now moving on to the next variation where we spice things up a bit. You want to create the same letters, and now this time add diagonal stripes through it like this. And now we have this really cool looking effect to our letters that looks more difficult than it really is. Next, we have another variation, but this time instead of doing stripes, we're just going to color in the entire block that we created, giving this lettering style a very bold look that will stand out on any page. So if you're looking for a great way to add a bold header to your notes, this is a great style to test out. And you can do the same style but with color too. Playing around with different colors can add a fun and different element to your note-taking or your planner spreads. Now let's work on the final variation I have to share with you. So create the basic block letter and then draw a horizontal line in the middle of all the blocks. Now color in the bottom part completely. Once you have that done, you want to create 3 horizontal lines above the colored in block. And I like to draw a longer line and then make it get shorter as I move up like this. I don't know what this style is, but it always gives me like a Western cowboy kind of feel. So we're going to call this the Western fade. So those are all the different variations of the basic blocks. Let me know which one is your favorite, or better yet, if you come up with a different variation of these, I'd love to see it, so make sure you tag me in your photos. For the bubble letters, I do have a different variation I want to share with you guys that I think could be fun. But first, let's start with how to do the basic bubble. Like I mentioned earlier, I draw a rounded out version of each letter, and I draw it with one motion with my pen. So it's just kind of like this fun loopy shape that you create. Of course, with many of the letters, you also need to add the smaller shape in the middle to complete the letters, like the rounded triangle shape in the middle of the A and the 2 circles in the middle to complete the letter B. You know what I mean? So taking that same lettering style, we're going to add on. I've only done this once in my planner before, but I fell in love with how it turned out. So this is the basic bubble, but a slimy version. All you have to do to create this is create the same basic bubble letter, but make your hand extra shaky. That's really the secret to it. It's also a good bonus if you add some subtle drip marks. This style is never going to look perfect. It's always going to be messy. It's slimy and scary. So yes, I know my C looks kind of like a G, but for this style, it all works. That's all I have to share with you for the different variations for the basic bubble letter. Now, before I share a mini tutorial on the faux calligraphy, let's just see some examples of quotes and phrases using the different styles I shared with you today. I'll just speed through this so you don't have to see it all. I don't think I really need to explain anything here, but these are just examples that give you a better idea of what it's actually going to look like when you write out real words and phrases with the different letters. So hopefully this example page gives you a better idea on how the different letters look with different quotes. So now let's move into a mini step-by-step tutorial on how to create faux calligraphy. So I've never truly mastered real calligraphy, so this is my secret to achieving it. You gotta fake it till you make it, right? So you wanna start off by just writing your sentence or phrase out in cursive. Practice writing big like this because it'll make it a lot easier when you're like just getting the hang of this. So the next step is to create the outline for where you're going to place the quote shadows, and the trick to figuring this out is going back to how you wrote each letter. So when you write the word slowly, you can see when your hand moves up towards the top of the page and when your hand moves down towards you. In calligraphy, those terms are called upstrokes and downstrokes. And in calligraphy, when you do an upstroke, the pen has less pressure on it, so the strokes are nice and thin. And when you create a downstroke and come down towards your body, there's more pressure, creating that thicker line, giving it that calligraphy shadow. So basically, every time you know your hand is doing a downstroke, you want to create an outline because that's where we want to add the shadow. Do that to all the letters, and when you're done, just fill it all in. And you can decide how thick you want the shadow to appear or how thin. Just play around with different styles to figure out which one you like best, and honestly, that's really all there is to it. So again, here's just a little recap of the steps. Number 1, write out the word or phrase in cursive. Number 2, outline where the downstrokes would be. And number 3, fill it in. And number 3, fill in the outline. Ta-da! And you've got yourself some faux calligraphy. So that's going to be it for this lettering video. I hope it helped and you guys give these a try in your note-taking or your planner spreads. And now remember in the beginning when I mentioned that in high school, what helped me was having my friend write the alphabet for me in her handwriting so that way I could copy it at home until my handwriting improved. Well, in case anyone is wanting to improve their handwriting and would like to use my handwriting to help them out, I'd love to send out this notebook with all the examples I wrote out. So if you'd like to win this exact JaaackJack notebook where you can use the rest of the pages to practice your lettering. All you have to do is like this video, subscribe, and leave a comment with your favorite lettering style and your Instagram or Twitter username. And that's it. So good luck to those of you that enter. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye!